Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to House Parties.
Parties.
Yes,
the
is,
emphasis.
Yes,
Parties.
yes. Parties. This is the fancy kind. Hopefully you dressed up. You didn't. You weren't supposed to dress up. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, this is week 2 of House Parties. It's really cool. I am really glad that we're back. I really missed my people.
Yeah, I did too. I know a lot of you said you missed your people, but now we're back.
We're back.
Yeah.
And again, 7th graders, I'm so glad that you have a house party. This is something new for you. It's incredible. You are starting to experience something that everyone else has experienced for a long time, and it's awesome. Or maybe this is your first time. Welcome to this weird group of people. Hope you feel comfortable. Yeah. Announcements. The only thing I can think of is the first Wednesday of September is our student night. So we'll be back all together. I think it's September 6th.
September 6th. Yeah. And so for some of you 7th graders and everybody, I suppose. Yes.
There's flies. So if you see us having sporadic movements, we're not
why.
ill. There's just flies.
If you visited any of our summer nights at all, student night is a lot like that, but it's what we do during the school year. And so there's going to be food, there's going to be worship, there's going to be a lesson. It's going to be a really good time. So invite your friends. It'd be a lot of fun to have them coming out with us.
Yeah. We have a couple of sponsors that has made this house party video possible. Would you like to share your sponsor first?
So this video has been brought to you by Cheese. Have you ever wanted your milk in loaf form? Eat some cheese. Coming to you from your local grocery store.
Yeah, this is also brought to you by the state of Wisconsin. Has anyone ever been there? No. Why would they? But I hear this is where cheese grows from. Wisconsin. All right, so we have adopted a turtle, and you have named the turtle. And this is a bit tricky because we're recording this before we have found out the name of this turtle. So I'm counting on Steven to help me out here. But you have named the turtle
this name.
Wow, I love that name. I really hope it's Jessica. Jessica is my favorite name. I really wanted to. I feel like I just spit a little bit. I really wanted to name my dog Jessica, because I could be like, Jessica, sit, and just like in public, like yelling at this person, but it's actually my dog. So.
Isn't it the name you wanted to use for the Rockies thing too?
For the Rockies thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we were going to the Rockies game, and they gave us the option of putting something on like the Megatron,
which you can do if you have enough people going, and we have a big group.
Yeah. And what I really wanted it to say was, Jessica, you're dead to me, so that everyone in Coors Field would be wondering who Jessica was and what she has done. So. To my knowledge, I don't think we have any students named Jessica, so I think it's still a safe one.
If your name is Jessica, we don't hate you.
So anyway, you guys have adopted a turtle, and its name is... Wow, what a great name. And so here's the next step in the turtle's journey. The turtle goes out for a walk one night, as turtles do on their own. And they are approached by 3 beings. The first is a wizard wearing a neon green robe and holding a staff that looks like a shower curtain rod. In fact, his robe might be the shower curtain that the rod came with, and he says, "Hello, I've been waiting for you. Follow me." Next, a leprechaun approaches wearing a sweater that says Swifty Forever, eating a 5-pound bag of Skittles, who asks, "What do you think is at the end of the rainbow?" And lastly, an emu runs up wearing sweatbands and Jordans with what seems to be a film crew following him. He asks, "Are you finally ready to achieve your fitness goals?" You have to decide who the turtle approaches. That's your goal.
So, is he gonna approach the wizard, the leprechaun, or the emu?
Yeah.
The choice is yours.
And choose wisely. Who you choose totally alters what happens in the life of this turtle, and this turtle is your responsibility.
It could even potentially lead to the turtle's demise.
Oh, wow. That would be crazy. Yeah. So the turtle's life could be on the line here. We'll see. Okay, enough of that. We have started a new series, and we have no idea how long this is going to be.
But that's okay.
Yeah, we're reading and learning and looking into the book of Mark. And your leaders have one of these for you. This is the literal book of Mark. What I love about these is on the top it says, 66 books, one story, all about one name. Mark. Yeah, it's not about Mark. That was, yeah. Okay, so this is actually really cool. This is yours to keep. Please put your name in it. In the beginning of the book is a little introduction about the book of Mark that you could read. And then you have, for the rest of the book, it's pretty much the verses of Mark on the left side. And on the right side are blank pages, and sometimes they have this little thing that was written. To be clear, this is not the Bible, but it could be good, so you could read it if you wanted to. This is your space, and this is your space to write notes and whatever you want in here. So this is yours. Please don't lose it. We will give you an extra copy if you do, but please don't. And please bring it every Wednesday so that we can actually look at this together. So, just to recap, Mark was written by Mark, who was a friend of Peter, who was a very, very close friend of Jesus. So, Peter told Mark a whole bunch of stories about Jesus, and Mark wrote them down. And some really big things that Mark really wants us to understand about Jesus through the story is that Jesus is not just like a philosophy or a set of rules, but he is a living being who wants to have a relationship with us, not just someone who told us what we should and should not do. The other thing is he's really trying to prove who Jesus is. He is God. And so he's telling a bunch of stories to make that point clear. So last week, we started the story. Jesus is about 30 years old. And there's these prophecies about a messenger. And we learn that the messenger is John. And because we know the messenger is John, now we pay attention to who John says is the Messiah, or the rescuer of the entire world and humanity for eternity. And John points at Jesus and says, that's the guy. And so because we know John is the messenger, we are paying attention to who he says is the Messiah, and he says it's Jesus, which is like, wow, okay, Jesus is
It's a big deal.
the Messiah. Yeah. And John baptizes Jesus, which is kind of like the official beginning of Jesus's ministry or his time spent loving other people. And that's kind of where we left off last time, and we're going to pick up here. We're not going to dig in too deeply here. We're going to let you guys do that because that's the fun part. But you're going to encounter at least 3 big chunks. Maybe Landry sees a different chunk here. But some things that are going to happen is Jesus is going to be tempted in the wilderness. Another thing is John is going to be arrested. Remember John? Isn't he great? We just met him. He's arrested. Okay. And then the third thing happening in the part that we're reading is Jesus is going to call the disciples, or at least the first disciples. I didn't mention this. We're going to be looking at Mark chapter 1, verse 12 through 20. So this little chunk here. Okay, so some things that you should probably know before you kind of dive in here that aren't obvious is Mark's version of Jesus being tempted in the wilderness is so short. There's a lot of stories in Mark where he just kind of calls it how it is and then he moves on. In other books, it's kind of like this longer story in a series. It's like a troll under a bridge kind of a scenario. Like he had these 3 tests or whatever. So you're going to talk about this section, but when you do, you need to remember one of the main goals of Mark is to establish who Jesus is. Jesus is God. Okay? Remember that. Second part, John is arrested. It just says John is arrested. Thought you might want to know why John was arrested. The leader of the area of Israel at the time was this dude named Herod. And Herod had a wife. And Herod also had a brother, and his brother had a wife. Well, Herod, he kind of got tired of his wife, and so he divorced his wife, and then he took his brother's wife. That's bad. And John said, Herod, that's bad. And Herod didn't like being told that that was bad, and he didn't want to be embarrassed, so he just arrested John. Because Herod can do that kind of thing, because he's in charge, and it's kind of messed up, but that's why John was arrested. Another thing, the word kingdom is going to come up a lot in Mark. And if you pay attention throughout the whole book, you're going to start to have a clearer understanding of what this kingdom is and what this kingdom isn't. And so maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, here's the last thing I want to point out. This is my favorite. So if you're talking, stop talking! Pay attention. You'll love this. Because this is honestly, this is about you. So, in this story, Jesus is going to call a few people to follow him. And they're in the middle of fishing because that's their job. And Jesus says, follow me. And they just immediately stop doing what they're doing. And then they follow Jesus, which is weird. It's like, why would they do that? Shouldn't they question who this person is? It's like Jesus put them in a trance and they're zombies following him. But that's not what's happening at all. Something you really need to understand is the absolute most incredible thing that could ever happen to you at this time is if a teacher of the Bible or a rabbi invited you to follow them. And that didn't happen a lot. Every kid in Israel at this time, they would go to a special school from the ages of 5 to 9 where they would memorize the first 5 books of the Bible, word for word. If they showed themselves to be really good at this, they would graduate to the next school. If they were not good at this, they were told, go home, learn how to do the job that your father does. If your father's a fisherman, become a fisherman. If your father's a blacksmith, be a blacksmith, da-da-da-da-da. So, if you went to the second school, you would go there from the ages of 10 to 13, and you would memorize the rest of the Bible, the entire Old Testament. If you're looking at a Bible, it's probably the chunk we're talking about is this thick.
It's hefty.
Yeah. If you memorized the entire Bible word for word, and you showed your teachers that you had a really good understanding, not just memorization, then you could apply to follow a teacher and be their disciple, and they would mentor you. And if that teacher saw your application and interviewed you and quizzed you on your knowledge, and they felt yes, this is someone who has done the work to follow me, then you would get to follow a teacher. Only maybe 1% of the people, so there's that first school from 5 to 9, only 10% of the people in that school move on to the second level, basically high school. And of that 10%, only 1% got invited to follow a teacher. There are some people who believe that over the span of 100 years, only about 100 people got invited to follow a teacher or a rabbi. That was the most incredible thing that could ever happen to your life. And so that's really important to understand, because in this story, they just drop what they're doing and they follow Jesus because they never in their life expected to get that invitation. The reason why they are fishing is because at some point in their education, they were told, you're not good enough at this. Good try, go home, learn to be a fisherman. And then this teacher comes along and says, actually, I want you to follow me and learn from me. That's huge. If that happened to you, your parents would not be disappointed. They would be so excited to hear, hey, your son or daughter is gone, a teacher invited them to follow them. They would throw a party. They would think that was the most incredible thing in the world. One other thing that I want to point out is until you're 13, you don't work alone. You work with your father. In this story, James and John are fishing with their father, which means they are under the age of 13, which is really important for you guys to know. Because what this means is Jesus chose a couple people who are your age to be his disciple. Now, back then, 13 was kind of like 18, but still.
Yeah.
He chose people under the age of 18, and back then under the age of 13. You're going to talk about why that's huge, but that should stick out to you right out of the gate of
So cool.
Jesus invited a few teenagers to be his disciples. That's insane. So those are kind of the things that I really want you to know before you kind of look at this yourselves.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm excited for y'all to get started on that because that's super cool.
So again, it's chapter 1, verse 12 through 20. Have a great time. I think you're really going to like it.
Yeah. See y'all later.
Bye-bye.